Hello everyone. Today I'm going to deal with post-colonial studies, beyond the ethic, feminist, and post-colonial narratives in White Saragasso. So, um, Here I want to convey that how White Saragasso is powerful and successful novel that works as a counter discursive work. Discursive text, and this means it writes back against the dominant story of Jane Eyre. These are my academic informations, table of contents, and a research question that how does Reese's White Sargasso Sea function as a successful counter-discursive text that dismantles the foundational ideological framework of the British imperial and patriarchal archive established by Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. So, with a hypothesis, White Sargasso Sea successfully challenges the authority of Victorian canon by synthesizing feminist critique with post-colonial discourse, effectively demonstrating that the economic and narrative imprisonment of Antoinette, later on Bertha Mason, is a necessary ideological precondition for the perceived liberation and ethical triumph of the English feminist subject Jane Eyre. So here, my goal is to show that how Jean Rhys uses her narrative to dismantle this whole system through these arguments of different critics. So first is the intertextuality, exposing the archival lie. Revisionist disobedience. Rees is being deliberately disobedient to the original text, Jane Eyre. She is not just adding a prequel, but she is challenging the canonical text itself, and exposing ideological constructs. So by putting the maid woman at the center, Antoinette, Reyes makes it impossible us to ignore her character, and she exposes the idea of Bertha as a crazy, as just a narrative tool used by the British. Then the narrative imperative. So uh, the text focus on reverse reading, and it suggests us to read a story reversal in a reversal manner, and we realize that Jane's liberation is literally dependent on a colonial woman being silenced and locked up in attic, and challenging the Englishness. So this is a post-colonial point. Rees argues that the very idea of pure English identity is unstable because it relies on controlling and marginalizing people in the colonies. Next, the post-colonialism, deconstructing colonial binaries. So first is constructing oppositions. So Antoinette is always caught in the middle, neither fully black nor fully white, or not fully English, not Creole, and this in between status successfully breaks down the rigid, simple categorize of colonial thinking. Then colonial fragmentation. So the novel successfully subverts the progressive narrative of history by demonstrating that post emancipation freedom brings new repressive social controls, supporting an anti enlightenment critique of European rationalism and liberalism. Then the power of naming. So after Antoinette shift from that massacre to London, that time Rochester give her name Bertha. So this act of we can say it as a act of violence. Rochester renaming her Bertha is it is a symbolic act of slave branding, we can say, and he claiming ownership and erasing her identity under English law. Then feminist critic, law, property, and agency. So marriage is a colonial rule. So here proves that marriage is not about love, but it is a legal contract for property transfer. And Antoinette's body and her family's money are simply assets being transferred to an Englishman. We have already seen in a novel that after marrying with Antoinette, Rochester gets her property. Then the subversive landscape. So the wild and uncontrollable Caribbean gardens contrast with the structured English garden, and the wild nature resists the patriarchal desire to own and organize, just like Antoinette's spirit. And then reclaiming agency by fire. So the fire reverses the historical pattern of uh, pers- persecuting and silencing women. Instead of being consumed quietly, she uses the fire to assert her presence and selfhood. In the final act, we seen that she anyhow tries to escape from that, but later on she realizes that she is holding fire, and she is burning things. And ethical success, voice and the subaltern. So acknowledging complexity, we must be critical here that some scholars argue risked prioritizing the white woman pain over the black woman's, potentially ignoring the voice of a subaltern. And defense of the attempt. However, we defend Rees that Christophine is essential. She offers a crucial speaking position for the colonized, and she is real and powerful character of here. Then necessary conflict. So the ambiguity in her character is not a flaw in the novel. It is a realistic picture of the complicated, messy, and conflicts over race and meaning in the colony. Then contemporary relevance, enduring critics, hybridity, and migration. So Antoinette's feeling of never belonging is a blueprint for today's conversation about migration, diaspora, and hybrid identity. Systematic critic. So resist critic of liberalism is very current. It shows that even when laws change, the system of control, patriarchy, and empire can still be in a place. Then the politics of naming. The we already discussed that Rochester gave Antoinette a new name, Bertha Mason. And it is we can consider also a modern issue. And like microaggressions, the power of the dominant group to define who you are, and ethical storytelling. So the debates over Christophine is the same debate we have today about the tokenism and allyship in movies and books. We gets to who good gets to tell whose story. And in the end, in conclusion, through its radical intertextuality, its a successful deconstruction of colonial binaries, and its powerful synthesis of feminist and anti-imperialism imperial concerns, White Sargassoti is a definitive and necessary literary text. It successfully changes the very ideological foundation upon which the Victorian novel and the British Empire were built by revealing the colonial woman's silencing to be a prerequisite for the celebrated domesticity and ethical selfhood of the English heroine. The novel's enduring power lies in its persistent exposure of how patriarchy and imperialism are fundamentally inseparable system of control. So my learning outcome is that now I can confidently analyze the and defend how White Sargassoti functions as a definitive counter-discursive text that dismantles the established Western literary canon, and integrate feminist and post-colonial theories to analyze how patriarchal controls operates as a direct extension of imperial controls. and I can critically evaluate the nuance and persistent debate regarding the representation of the subaltern and argue for the novel's significance as an essential ethical intervention. So these are my references, and thank you. If anyone have question, please feel free to ask.
My question is for you that some critics says that Reese focuses too much on the white Creole woman and ignores black voices. So how do you respond on that?
Yes, we can see that Rees tries to tell story of Antoinette, and some critics says that Christophine, the black woman, is ignored. But I, in my point of view, that she had a portrayal of she is. Very good to describe of a character of Christophine, that she knows Obea, which is known European tradition, and we have seen that colonized people are also afraid to spoke a single word against of Christophine. So that is.
So, Srushti, my question for you: how is white surrogacy still relevant to today's world?
So we have already discussed that identity, migration, and diaspora. So sometimes in a contemporary world, many children are belongs to that family that their parents had interreligion or intercaste marriage. So they are not fully one particular they cannot belong from one particular religion or caste. So that is from my side. Thank you.